All right. Hello, everyone. Hello. Good morning, distinguished leaders on the call. Good morning, my fellow MTNers. It's a pleasure to have you all here today. My name is Ifoma Halim, and I'm the Brand and Communications Manager here at MTN Business. Again, we're delighted to have you join us as we together unpack a very relevant topic in the world of banking and fintech, the topic on latency. We've tagged the webinar Fast Matters, Reducing Latency Across Mobile Banking, USSD, and Payment Channels. As we know, every tap on mobile app, every card authorization, every cross-border transaction carries an unspoken expectation for customers. And that unspoken expectation is the need for immediacy. And as we see in this space, in the banking and fintech space, the market rewards institutions that operate at the speed of light. That's where cloud strategies come in, because with cloud, you can enable proximity, you can enable scalability, and you can enable resilience to ensure maximized performance. So that's why we're here today. We'll be diving into this topic. Why is it important more than ever before to minimize latency? We'll also be diving into the different cloud strategies that can enable this, as well as other benefits that can be gained from the cloud. I'm joined by seasoned cloud solution leaders and experts on the call. I have with me Onome Ologe, as well as Tobechukwu Ajoku. It's a pleasure to have you here, gentlemen. So we'll dive right in the interest of time, with a poll. We'd love to get your thoughts on this matter of latency. Please give me a few minutes. Okay, so we have the poll in the chat, and it reads, what is your biggest latency pain point? What is your biggest latency pain point? Is it the mobile app, USSD, POS authentication, transfer API gateway, or all channels? What is your biggest latency pain point right now in your business? So please do take some time out to fill in this poll. Would love to get your thoughts before we dive right in. I will give us about 2 to 3 minutes, and then we would go right ahead with the agenda of the day. Thank you very much. So what is your biggest latency pain points? If we're having any issues with the poll, please also indicate. Feel free to drop in the chat section as well. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Nadi. Good morning, Mr. Nicolaus. So I'm just pulling out the names I can see on the chat. Awesome. I'm seeing some responses already. So the very first, USSD. Someone has voted USSD as a pain point for them. Another person has said all channels. Fantastic. This is very good to know, and will be addressed in our presentations today. All right, so the poll will still be in the chat. Please feel free to provide your input as we go along. I will be handing over to Onome to take us through his presentation, which he has titled Cloud, Selling It Right. Onome, are you ready? Please go right ahead.
Yes, I am. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. Good morning, everybody. I'm super excited to be here to talk about the MTN Cloud infrastructure. As if I had some premonition, I knew that USSD would probably be one of the key concerns, especially around payment channels for a lot of financial institutions. And my presentation will be speaking to how the MTN Cloud infrastructure will be a game changer for banking operations, especially as it speaks to payment channels. So if you are as excited as I am to go, I would like to pledge that you give me some of your time. I'm going to go right into my presentation. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, great. So, delving right into it, I would like to talk about how the MTN Cloud infrastructure would help reduce latency for banking applications, the USSD or whatever payment channels that we have. We're not talking anything technical about cloud itself. We're just going to keep it executive, high level, and we aren't doing any technical deep dive for now. Looking at the outline that I have, we'll be talking about the cost of latency. Why do USSD channels or payment systems fail? How does it affect the user experience? How does it now in turn affect the adoption of the payment channels? We'll also talk about the MTN Cloud Advantage. Then we'll talk about our own recommendation, which will be what we're trying to sell to you, the audience, as the next steps for us in terms of improving banking operations hosting on the MTN Cloud. So I'll delve right into it. For a lot of customers, the engagement with the banking industry or banking operations is no longer visiting branches. It is about apps, it's about USSD payments. And when we're talking about USSD payments, a few seconds delay or lag can lead to loss of trust. It can lead to loss of repeat usage, and eventually the loss of the customer. So starting from the latency that comes from access to USSD payment gateways, we can see how that chain reaction leads to the loss of the customer when the customer loses faith either in the banking system or the product, which is usually a function of the connectivity that the customer is accessing the banking operations or the banking services with. So we have seen that globally hosted cloud infrastructure will lead to about 200 to 400 milliseconds in terms of latency, and that is if you are hosting in Africa. If you're hosting some other places in the West where we have the very popular cloud services providers, you can imagine how much more that will add to the latency for access for the banking operations, especially the USSD channels that we're talking about. These channels are traditionally time sensitive, and we see that the timeouts will kill the transaction, which now leads to the unhappy customer. Now, why do these USSD or payment channels fail? Simply put, every extra kilometer that the system or the backend systems need to do the round tripping leads to more and more milliseconds network throughput or latency, which now leads to the possibility of session timeouts that lead to failed transactions or reversals, and customers begin to lose trust. We may or may not have had the displeasure of having reverse transactions or failed transactions, but we know that when we do have these failures, it is something that leads to the displeasure of the customer, and in most cases, a lack of trust for the bank. Now, how do we address or assess the payment failures that comes from USSD transactions? What is the impact of these failures? That takes me to the next slide. And this is just industry data showing us the difference between globally hosted cloud service providers and locally hosted cloud service providers, in this case, the MTN Cloud. Now we have 4.2 failures per thousand, as against 0.4 to 0.6 per thousand for locally hosted cloud service providers, in this case, the MTN Cloud. Putting the infrastructure as close to the customer as possible would lead to the reduction in the failure rates, like we can see very clearly, up to 85 to 90% reduced failure rates coming from latency. It means fewer reversals. It means fewer disgruntled customers or unhappy customers. It means fewer calls to your call centers. It means fewer frustrated customers due to failures that come with the latency-induced USSD payment failures. Now, the more transactions that we have successfully completed at first try, the more excited the customer is, the more stickability the customer has to the banking solution or the banking service or the bank itself, and that leads to lower customer churn and a happier customer. So we can clearly see mathematically what the value add is in hosting on the MTN Cloud, which is our local cloud service provider, versus a global external service provider where the errors can be really, really high. So speaking to the MTN Cloud advantage, what is it that we are selling to you? What is it that we are offering to you? The first thing I want you to think about is that a lot of banks traditionally rely on cloud services or data centers that are multiple kilometers away from where these banks are. Now, that traffic is carried by different networks, it's exchanged by different carriers. Before it gets to the infrastructure, it does the round tripping back. That pushes the latency to a considerable high. Now, we have spoken about the fact that the increase in the latency would lead to reversals, higher probability of failed transactions, higher calls to the call center, more unhappy customers, and the higher probability of losing the customer. But for the MTN Cloud advantage, because we are closer to you, we are closer to the bank, we are closer to the customer, and we also provide connectivity apart from the cloud services that we offer, we have a considerable reduction in the latency, and as a result, a much better user experience. And that is the cloud advantage that we are selling to you and would like to show you more of. Now, what does the industry data say? The adoption and revenue speak to the value that you get from hosting on the MTN Cloud. For one, you have lower failure, you have real-time payment feedback. So if somebody sends you money, you can get the alert almost immediately. You can confirm it almost immediately. You can do the business transaction that you want to run almost immediately and in real time. And that way, think about the multiplier effect or the satisfaction that comes with the speed at which transactions are going through. Now, apart from that, you'd also have reduced support tickets from complaints. So if you run a call center or you run some sort of support organization, which a lot of banks do, you'd have less tickets coming from timeout complaints that as a result of the high latency coming from hosting with global services providers. And more importantly, is the competitive advantage. We hear about a lot of financial institutions boasting about having higher rates of successful transactions than some others. We may have experienced it ourselves, or we may in our different peer groups hear about some people speak about specific banks as those that have guaranteed transaction success. Now, hosting on the MTN Cloud would help you achieve that and drive that value for your organization. Now, let's talk about what the financial use case is. We have spoken about the user experience. We have spoken about some of the concerns about hosting globally. What is the financial use case? Now, for us, hosting on the MTN Cloud means that your data is as close to you as possible. If we had to do a comparison between your consumption for your infrastructure on the cloud versus what you have for legacy data centers, you find out that you have a closer mapping of your use to your provisioning than you would have for legacy data centers, where according to industry data, you have about a 30 to 40% overhead that comes from over provisioning for the services that you run. So the closer you are to the provisioning and the services that you're running, the less waste and the more cost optimization that you get, because there isn't any idle capacity. Of course, if you want to scale up or scale down, as the case may be, due to peak periods or specific periods where you have increased customer use. We'll see how the MTN Cloud in a demo, this is me just letting the cat out of the bag. Well, we'll show you in a few minutes how our cloud platform will scale up or scale down, as the case may be, to match your use to what you provisioned, thereby helping you save cost and mapping your capacity to your use cases. Then, of course, that cost optimization leads to revenue uplift. You have fewer abandoned sessions that will lead to quantifiable revenue increases. So this is where it gets interesting for us, and I want to share that excitement with you. Why does MTN Cloud win? First thing is the physics, or the math, like you like to put it. Because we are local, our latency is the best possible. Our infrastructure is local, your customer base is local, your infrastructure is local, and as such, you get the best customer experience possible. Now, for the FSI space, which is highly regulated, data sovereignty is also very important. You are easily getting the green check mark for regulatory compliance by hosting data in the country. Then for support, you have 24/7 global support, like I like to put it. Business hour responsiveness from seasoned support professionals who understand your language, who understand your business language, and feel the pulse with you, and as a result are able to respond as fast as possible. Then comes the economics of scale, which is why a lot of SMEs will traditionally choose us over the global hyperscalers. Now, this is our value proposition, and this is what I want us to think about as we go through this brief webinar where we're talking about the value add for hosting locally on the MTN Cloud. This again is speaking to where we are at, where the MTN Cloud wins. We're a trusted local provider. So we have dedicated infrastructure across the country. We have tier 3, tier 4 certified data centers. We're able to provide enterprise and web workloads with lowest latency possible. We're also able to simplify your cloud adoption. So if it's a brownfield or greenfield environment where you want to bust into the cloud, or you want to start up afresh on the MTN Cloud, allowing you to pivot from whatever service that you're going to another service, you are just at the right place hosting on the MTN Cloud. Then, of course, we have the best latency possible. We have local support, and for your organizations that will require regulatory compliance, we're able to help you achieve that regulatory compliance by hosting your data locally. This is speaking to the ROI case. I've spoken about it in a few slides, but I'll just highlight it once again. When you're hosting on the MTN Cloud, your USSD gateways would reduce the cross-border milliseconds that come from the latency to local microseconds that enable you have fewer failed transactions, better user experience, lower infrastructure costs because your cloud deployment is as close to your utilization as possible. Then you also have faster time to market for new payment channels or any other solutions that you like to deploy. Now, what is my final message to you? And this is where our recommendation comes. We know that it might not be admissible to migrate everything that you have to the MTN Cloud. So I want us to be strategic about it. Where are your current pain points when we talk about the USSD payment chain? I would like to propose a 1 to 3 month or a 6-month POC where we can pilot your use cases on the MTN Cloud, show you how we can measure the value that you get from hosting on the MTN Cloud in terms of the latency, the user experience, which will come from the customer feedback, the success rates, and strategically plan a rollout when we begin to see that the figures speak positively and the value is getting higher for us as an organization. Now, we're able to provide this for you. If you would be interested in taking our word for it or getting on board to the MTN Cloud, please let us know in the chat bot, the chat section, or through our different channels that we have. We'll be more than excited to get you on a POC for 1 to 3 months where you can test drive the MTN Cloud and see this measurable value for yourself. And finally, low latency is competitive, and that is where the MTN Cloud infrastructure is enabling you by providing better banking operations. Thank you very much, Ifeoma. This is all the time that I have. I'm more than happy to take any questions. Just before that, or maybe we take the questions after the demo that I spoke about, where we can show how the auto scale on the MTN Cloud is helping you either boost to the MTN Cloud, extend your footprint as you begin to see utilization grow, and also reduce it. So that way you are managing your costs, optimizing your spend, and you're able to put your money where your mouth is, as against the waste that would traditionally come from legacy data centers. So I'll be handing over to my colleague, Toby. Toby, I don't know if you're on the call, if you can hear me. Please, would you mind showing our guests on the call just a brief demo of how the auto scale works, so they can see the value firsthand in hosting on the MTN Cloud.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. And good morning, everyone. And thank you also for joining this webinar. I would go ahead and share my screen and take it from where the message stopped. So the reason we are also talking about the auto scaling capability of the MTN Cloud is because even when you get your network connectivity right and you're sitting in the right place, if your instances are overworked, if they're overloaded, if there is a spike in the requests from your customers, you need to be able to handle them in a programmatic way. Inability to do that properly would mean that you get the working customers, and your systems are unable to handle their requests, which is also a reason the customer would be upset, spend too much time running the service, or even not come back because of the experience. Let me know if you can see my screen. I'm sharing my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. I'll just take it step backwards. So I'm logged into the MTN Cloud on the screen on the right, as on my right. I'm hoping it's on your own right as well. On the left, I'm logged into the same instance you're seeing here, which is just a test instance I've deployed on the MTN Cloud as a tenant. Here, and the idea here is to show how the auto scale service works. So the scenario I painted, you're running, for example, you're running a promo, you're running a particular service, or you have understood your peak time for your environment, for your the business you do, and you've taken that step to ensure that your systems are resilient enough to cater to the request that customers bring. One of the things you have to do at that point is to build in the scalability function. We call it the scale threshold, where I've set up something here already for time's sake. I can go in and edit it to show what the parameters are. So essentially what we've done here is to define that the system should automatically scale up the number of instances I've deployed when a particular threshold is hit, and scale it down when when a particular threshold, the minimum threshold, has also been reached. So what I've put here is that the minimum threshold to scale back will be 30% of the CPU utilization. And when it hits 90% or 95, I can bring this lower to 80% or 60%, the decision is internally. So when the utilization hits 80%, I tell it that it should automatically scale out, deploy one or two more instances to allow me keep managing my customers. I've done this maximum count as 2 just for the demo sake. And when that utilization falls back to 30% of my CPU, scale back to this minimum count, which is 1 machine instance. So I'll save this. On the screen on my left, I'm logged into that particular VM instance, and I would start a stress test. This is a load scenario where I'm trying to simulate activities on the CPU and present it as being actively utilized. So it will take a while. The CPU would, start handling the request, gradually dealing with it, and at some point it becomes overwhelming for it, and you will see that it is already currently spiking 22% utilization. Remember, we'll set that scale threshold at 80%. Okay, CPU is working, doing its best at 20%. Shortly after now, you will see it off like beyond that point. Then the auto scale capability or function kicks in. All right, so this is very important. And like I mentioned, it would make the system keep this traffic coming in and create the ability to reach the very end point of the transaction completion for every customer that is hitting that particular web service or backend service, whatever it is that you're running on the system. Okay, so give some time. The MTN Cloud is built on modern high-end CPU services. So even with high workload, it will still do its best to keep running. But at this point, we're hitting the 100 mark, which is maximum. Okay, so we'll see how that affects the system. You can see that we have passed both the minimum and the maximum threshold set for this scale threshold. And we'll expect in a minute that the set parameters to deploy additional instances for this particular workload. The system, you see that we're currently 100. So you can see that the auto scale has set in, an additional instance has been deployed. Because I've done this before, the count is 3. So this is the third time it's doing this deployment, for this particular instance. So this auto scale has initiated, and it would run a course and deploy a new instance to handle additional traffic coming into the system. Okay, so how is this effective? The instance that will be deployed will be load balanced. There's a load balancer here, but fortunately for time's sake, I didn't go through the deployment of a load balancer for this particular instance. So when it's fully deployed, the system provides a load balanced VIP for it and ensures that your users can still use services across the 2 nodes. In this our case, I had 4. I had 5 as my threshold instance deployment. Deploy those and ensure that they are all working in tandem to provide the service for your end users. So this deployment takes about 3 minutes, give or take. Yeah, so while we do that, we would wait for it to complete. If there are any questions on the initial section or this one, we can just pop it in the chat area, and we'll be happy to answer that.
Thank you so much, Toby. Thank you, Onome, for the insights shared as well. All right, so we'll be transitioning right into the next segment, which is the Q&A section. So we encourage members, our special guests, to please use this opportunity to ask any questions that you have about MTN Cloud, about all the things that have been discussed on the call as well. We look forward to hearing from you. I'll just open the floor right away.
Okay, while the questions are coming in, a second instance has been deployed. We are waiting for it to finalize some of the telemetry components for it. At the moment, we see that the instance is deployed. It's picked up a public IP address like the parent instance. So we'll have 2 actively working, server instances running currently for this particular workload. What I will do shortly is to kill that stress test, but I'll wait for this to complete a few more seconds. I kill the stress test, and while we're asking questions, we can keep an eye on this and also see how it scales back once the CPU utilization hits back the 30% minimum threshold we have set. Okay. All right. So the second instance is fully deployed. The telemetry components, all of that in place. We can see its public IP address here, like the first one. So it's a usable instance. So I'll just kill the stress process that is currently working on the system. And watch as the utilization on CPU scales back, and it also reverts the deployment it did, because we had set the minimum count for the server to be 1 on our scale threshold here as 1 minimum count. So we expect that this falls back to, all right, CPU utilization is already dropping. Okay, as it continues below that threshold, minimum threshold, we expect the system to also, destroy the additional instances that were deployed. So this is both a mechanism for catering for your workloads, your customer requests, and also ensuring that you're optimizing costs. For now, when we deploy physical systems, would provide as much as was required to cater for all of the known workload expected from customers. However, today with the cloud and MTN Cloud capabilities, you're able to keep the optimal use of your cost. However, being also able to meet your transactional requirements at time. Okay. All right. So let's see if that has started happening. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? So we're still scaling backwards. Processes will be killed gradually, and the system stress on the CPU will start offloading. We should have killed all of it. Okay. All right, you can see those drops coming in 90%. I'm trying to force out the process that is currently still working. This is entirely a server administration activity. So while we look at what's going on here, we see that, 1 second, that all of the processes that have been, taken out of the system, and we expect it to start scaling back. I want to make sure we capture that scale back period so that we see exactly how it works. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's see the questions come in. I would immediately this comes up, I would highlight it that the scale back has started. Thank you. Ifeoma, back to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Toby. Again, the floor is open, please. If you have any questions at all about...
It's going on. The scaling back is happening. With my apologies. Yep, so that instance is out. We're back to a single instance scenario. So that's the end of the demo. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Toby. All right, so any questions, please do share in the comments section. I have a few frequently asked questions here while we patiently wait. Please give me a few minutes. All right, so the very first frequently asked question that we received during the webinars that we hold speaks to freemium usage of the MTN Cloud. So the question reads, can the MTN Cloud be explored for free? What are provisions that are available for freemium usage? Again, can MTN Cloud be explored for free? And what are some of the provisions that are available for freemium usage? Gentlemen, the floor is yours, please. We'd love to get your insights.
Yes, I'll take that. I hope I'm audible. Yes, you can engage with the MTN Cloud platform for free. We have cloud credits that we give to our customers, enterprises, users who want to try out our cloud services and begin to find out if our platform would be a great fit for their workload and some of the value propositions that we're selling out to you. You can always come double check and confirm for yourselves. So yes, that's possible. Just visit the cloud.mtn.ng portal. Get through the onboarding. When you're done with the onboarding process, you get a tenant ID. Reach out to us through our different channels. We have the Let's Talk email address, or you can give us your contact. We'll reach out to you. Once we have the tenant ID, we'll provision the cloud credits for you. Assign you a customer success manager that would handhold you to getting used to the services that we have on the MTN Cloud, handholding you through the process of provisioning resources, answering some of your very critical questions, and walking you through that journey. So yes, definitely we do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that response, Onome. Hopefully that's been very helpful to someone. Another question that we get a lot is on the issue of cloud bills racking up, right? So what measures do we actually have in place to prevent this issue? Unnecessary racking up of cloud bills. Onome, question you can take. Please go right ahead.
The way you want to take that, I see your motion into this. So do you want me to jump right into it?
Let me chime in. Maybe I'll hand back the mic to you. Okay. So part of the mechanisms, like I mentioned, on technical standpoint, is this auto scales function, for instance, that allows you to stay minimal, operational, but also scale to meet your customers' request. Will I assume that your customers are how you make money, right? So if you need to make that money, have the resources to do that, get the customers in, get them served properly, then scale back to your minimal operational status. The other one is there are budgets, a budget that can be set for your workload and your team to ensure that they don't scale beyond what you have approved, right? And also and I'm speaking technically, entirely technically, that within the MTN Cloud, the very robust granular role-based access control allows you to keep an eye on who has access to do what and ensure that certain actions can only be carried out by people who have the budget, for instance, and who have the skill to ensure that they can do those actions properly and not damage what you've set up within the environment. So that technically gives you some level of comfort that the budget can be set. First of all, people with the right access and budget can also execute. But more so, within the execution framework, you have a baseline for operational status, and you can also scale to meet what is required for your customers when that need comes in, and not just rack up costs without any revenue coming in, but for defined needs. And when required, you can scale back to your operational status and keep your cost as minimal as possible. Right? Anyway, back to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Toby. Nothing more to add. I think you hit the spot on that one. If I'm back to you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Our special guests, don't know if you have any additional questions. I see one from Mr. Ifeanyi Nadi. So he asks, please, can you explain how MTN Cloud accommodates device tracking services, onboarding and all? I'm asking because our company currently hosts our tracking service in China, but we're considering moving it to Nigeria for easy accessibility and better user experience. Please, can you expatiate on how this can be achieved? Who wants to take this?
Yes, I can take it if Toby doesn't mind. We would like to discuss more with you to find out what platform you're currently hosting on, what your workload requirement is through an evaluation or an assessment. I try to find out how we can migrate that to the MTN Cloud, the services that you need, because I reckon that there's a whole chain of services for your tracking. There's the IoT part of it, then also there's the backend system part of it. But for the infrastructure and the IoT services, we provide all of that services on the off the MTN Cloud. So connectivity to your to the monitored services, backend infrastructure that is getting the data of this the monitored services, evaluating that data and making business sense for you. All of that is possible. So we're more than excited to continue this conversation. If I don't know if you can put the email address for contact in the chat, so that Mr. Nadi can reach out, and we're very excited to continue this conversation.
Yes, I'm doing that right away.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Wait. Any additional questions? Okay, while we wait, just curious. So I know we've touched on this in the presentation, but what services from MTN Cloud address the issue of latency? If you had to give 3 key bullet points in response to this question, what would they be? I would like to take this.
Do you want to start?
Okay, sure, definitely. I saw you come off you that you want to jump you. So first off, our cloud services are hosted locally. So mathematically, we give you the best possible latency because we are local. And that's speaking to the geography part of it. Secondly, we are Africa's largest telco, Nigeria's largest telco. We are the largest telco by virtue of the service offerings that we have, our connectivity footprint, and we're able to extend our connectivity footprint to you to enable you, number one, get the best possible connectivity from a point-to-point mapping, like I like to put it. So you're not just traveling over the internet. You can get that dedicated line of connectivity from the MTN Cloud to either your data center, your branch offices, which will translate to the user experience that your customers will get. Now, if you also require some connectivity to extend to your own data center, which is where we see for a lot of customers in this vertical, where they're running complex systems in diverse environments, some on the MTN Cloud, some hosted in their own data center, we're able to help you achieve that level of connectivity locally without running through the internet backbone. So that's how we are able to achieve the best latency possible. Apart from the geography part of it, there's also the connectivity part of it, which is one of the key services that we offer.
Thank you, Nome. I'll just draw a story, a customer experience where we have this customer who moved his workload from AWS, sorry, I'm mentioning names, to host on the MTN Cloud. Primary reason was, apart from other things, was the latency he could achieve using the MTN Cloud. And he hosted and provided live feed for one of Africa's biggest, events, running into weeks. And that was impossible because he was hosting on MTN Cloud. You moved from a 200 milliseconds return time to a sub 25 milliseconds across local providers within the country. And that was significant gain for him. But one of the men has described where you have your enterprises, your banks, your financial houses connecting directly using a local pair into the MTN Cloud will give you a sub 10 milliseconds connectivity. And that provides the kind of latency you want to have across data centers to do DR, to do backup and recovery, or any kind of scenario that large enterprises actually depend on for resilience. So that takes it a notch higher than even the customer experience I just talked about, who had his own customers consuming service over the internet. But because it was hosted locally within the MTN Cloud, local users could get a sub 25 milliseconds access to the system. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Toby. Thank you, Onome. Any additional questions from our guests? Just check the chats quickly. We don't have any for now. So we want to believe that this has been a very straightforward presentation. Our inboxes are definitely open in case you do have questions later on about cloud services that we offer. Okay, I see another question actually. Apologies. From Mr. Nikhil Laus, he asked, please, can you please, it's a question related to standardized security on customer data. How can you standardize the security on customer data?
Okay, I'm not sure that I understand
too
the
clear on it,
question.
right?
Do you want to clarify a bit?
Yes, Mr. Nicolau, if you can kindly just expatiate or clarify, I would appreciate. You can just do so in the chat. We'll give you a few minutes to do that right away. All right, while we wait for Mr. Nicolau, just any closing thoughts, final thoughts from our facilitators for today and all that's been said. What would you like our guests, what would you like them to take away from this session?
Okay, so first off, I want to appreciate everyone taking out the time this morning to join us on this this webinar. We really appreciate it. My closing remarks will just be resharing one of my slides, if you don't mind, if I were. So I hope you can see my screen. What I'm showing is the recommendation slide. We want you to reach out to us. We want to conduct an assessment of what your current workload is. We want to listen to one of some of your pain points as it speaks to your infrastructure or digital estate. We also want to talk about a POC, 1 to 3 month POC, where you can validate some of the claims that were made on the webinar and have first-hand experience how your user experience, how latency, how the customer feedback, which should be positive, by the way, will drive the business value for your organization. So as much as it depends on you, I want to encourage all of us to please go to the cloud.mtn.ng website, click on the Get Started button, onboard, try out our cloud services, reach out to us through the chat or the email channel. We'll be more than excited to walk you through the MTN Cloud journey and demonstrate how you can get business value from hosting your infrastructure on the MTN Cloud.
All right, thank you, Onome. Any final thoughts on Toby?
Yeah, so back in the day, latency was a discussion for the network guy, but today is a business discussion because customers are nomadic, more or less. Those additional milliseconds that you gain from sitting on MTN Cloud, with the reason why you keep those customers that have left your environment currently. So it's a call to action to come in and check out what MTN Cloud has and also experience the better offerings around latency, amongst other things that we provide and how that will transform your business revenue-wise. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Toby. For the benefit of everyone on the call, I've dropped the URL to our MTN Cloud platform. So it's cloud.mtn.ng. Please do feel free to explore it, learn more about benefits and how it can be of value to your organization. Our inbox again is always open. As said earlier, please send us an email, letstalk.ng@mtn.com. We'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. If you'd like to explore the platform for free, as rightly said, we can make available a POC for you to do just that. I want to say a big thank you to Onome and Tobe for taking us through the cloud. I want to say a big thank you to all our guests on the call. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. We look forward to hosting you in a future session like this. Thank you and do enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.